Welcome to Ask a Celebrant, a conversational podcast answering your questions relating to all the commemoration and celebrations of all the chapters of your life. I'm Berni B, full life celebrant.
And I'm Dinah Liversidge. Hello everyone and welcome to Ask a Celebrant. I'm Dinah Liversidge.
And I'm Berni Benton.
And today we are going to be talking about a subject that we've spoken about before, but we both feel there is still a lot to be said on the subject. Is that fair to say, Berni?
I think that is very fair comment on that subject. I think it's one of those never-ending topics that's going to just keep expanding.
Yeah, and that particular topic is the topic of direct cremations. Now, I almost want to put the music on when I hear direct cremation.
I know.
But I do think that it's a really good idea to talk, to kind of take a step back and talk about who your end of life ceremonies and rituals and what has to happen, who they're really for. Because they're not really for you, are they?
No, I think we need to talk about that, and I also think we need to talk about how we've got to where we are, why the rise in them, how it's become about, and what the choices are, because people don't know. And I just need to point out that we are sat in the most beautiful spot while we're doing this, and it is such a cathartic space. We're surrounded by trees, and if we shut up for 1 second, you'll probably hear birdsong.
Gorgeous.
It's just lovely. We are we're sat outside the charcoal hut, which is owned by Dinah and is a little self-catering glamping space. And I've stayed here before myself, but it's just the most peaceful spot. And I think if you're going to talk about your end-of-life wishes, finding a place of peace and calm to do that is a really good idea. So we just happened to be here having coffee, but it made us want to talk about it a bit more, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. And I was thinking, as we're sitting here, about Hay Meadow, which I know you do a lot of services with. Yeah. Hay Meadow is one of the natural burial grounds, not that far from us.
Yeah. It's my most local one from where I live in.
It is, isn't it? And it is just the most peaceful, beautiful setting.
Yeah.
And so you're right, find somewhere, when you have these conversations, find somewhere that feels like you're near the trees.
Yeah.
It's never easy. Yes, or the sea, whatever that is for you, isn't it? Yeah. It's never easy to have these conversations, but I think you raised something really important. You said, how did we get to where we are now?
Yeah.
And there's a sense in some of the advertising that, farmers will be going past with trailers. Yeah. There is a sense in some of the advertising for the big direct cremation companies, these kind of huge organisations, that you should make sure you have a direct cremation to minimise what a nuisance you're being by dying.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very bad place to have come from. Yeah. But what I do think is it has created conversation that's now all about fear with direct cremation, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think that people hadn't really heard about it, and then out of the blue, seemingly, to the general public, and really full on in all daytime TV, there are tens of thousands of pounds worth of investment by national companies who were, certainly 12, 18 months ago, selling this, don't be a burden to your family, organise a direct cremation funeral plan, and you will no longer be a burden to your family, and everything is paid for and everything's out of the way. And basically what they're saying is, A, you're a nuisance, B, that is costly and inconvenient, you dying, and C, that nobody needs to worry about you anymore after you've died. And none of A, B and C, none of those three things are correct. But also there are other choices and other considerations to have when it comes to funerals. Least of all, if you are deciding to have a direct cremation, what type of direct cremation, because yes, there is more than one type. And secondly, have you spoken to those people who are left behind and going to be grieving about what they need and the impact of a direct cremation on them? And I think that is a huge step that these big organisations miss out. Absolutely. And I think they've realised that they've missed out on it, because if you listen to some of their adverts now, they're talking about it from a slightly different angle. They're saying don't be a burden, have a direct cremation, leaving your family free to have some sort of meaningful memorial separately from it.
Well, I think the conversation started about the impact on people who are grieving and their mental process and health, because grieving is a process.
Of course.
And when we take out ritual, which humans have done forever, all examples show that from the Stone Age, when people died, there was some form of acknowledgement and ritual. When you take that away, it's going to have an impact.
Of course.
And now they have seen that's the case. We saw it a lot, didn't we, during COVID?
Yeah.
And we've worked with families who've had direct cremations and then said, we wish we hadn't. And partly, again, that's because the person who's organised it has done it believing this awful message that, oh, gosh, I'm leaving my family with this terrible burden.
And the other thing they will have done is they would have booked a direct cremation without having a conversation and given their loved ones permission to do something alongside it. So then families who need, and most families do need some sort of ritual. When I'm saying ritual, I don't mean a big, organised. It could be something very small, but it's something where people gather and acknowledge and take a moment and have time together to begin to process. And what you're saying, if you book a direct cremation and you do that without informing anybody, is that you don't want them to do anything for you when you die. And that then leaves them, without the conversation, thinking that if they do something, have a wake, a memorial, a scattering of ashes, whatever it is, that they are going behind your wishes.
Yes.
Conversation is key to
everything. Absolutely, massively, isn't it? How do you, as somebody who's obviously written a book on this, on understanding that, it's your life, it's your death, it should be your wishes, how do you suggest to people that they start to have a conversation with their family if they've never broached this subject before?
Well, my parents found it easiest to start the conversation, or rather, I found it easiest to start the conversation with my parents by saying, "Hey, Mum, I've written a book." And then I said, "So don't you think that we should at least have these conversations and do what I've said in my book?" And it did start the conversations going. But I think just having, just tentatively saying, I know none of us want to think about what's going to happen when I die, or even the idea of the fact I'm dying, but it will happen at some point in the future. And I want to make sure that everybody has the best chance to celebrate my wonderful self when I'm gone, whatever that may mean. And so I want to put some things in place.
I love that response. And of course, if we haven't written the book, we can always go in and say, "Hey, Mum and Dad, I bought a book."
Yes.
But one of the things I heard recently that I thought was a beautiful way of starting this was that a gentleman had died in a fairly small community. Yeah. And several of the grown-up kids of his friends knew that the family, when they had come together to decide what to do for his funeral, had one set of instructions from him, and only one.
Right.
And he had said, "You can say what on earth you like, but I want this music played at my funeral."
Yeah.
So they, having never had the conversation with their parents about dying and what we want, wrote their own lists. Yeah. And they went to their parents and said, "I don't care what is said at my funeral, as long as you pick this music. Yeah. What music do you want at yours?"
Oh, yeah.
And they said somehow it felt much easier than saying, "Do you want to be cremated or buried?" Yeah. But once they got the list, they then said, "And that's the bit I want played when I'm brought in." Yeah. "Oh, where do you want to be brought in, Mum?" Yeah. "Well, I want to be carried on people's shoulders into the crematorium."
Yeah. Definitely start with something small.
And I thought that was a very clever, easy way in. What music do you want? Yeah. Lovely way of doing it.
Yeah. Or, I loved going to that friend's service. They all wore bright scarves.
Exactly.
I'd really love that. Or I heard my friend told me that they all, instead of flowers, they all had a little pot of baby narcissus that they could all take away.
How gorgeous.
That sounds really nice. I'd quite like that. And that starts a conversation. So it can be something you've read or seen or an idea. I just heard that my friend's ashes went up in a firework. Oh my God, wouldn't that be cool? What would you like with yours? You know, so you can start off light. And then when people go, oh, I don't want to talk about that and think about dying, then you can say something profound like, I know it's really scary, but what's more scary is not knowing what you want. And I love you and I want to make sure I honour you. And I'm sure that you want to make sure that I am taken care of when you're not here. And a conversation will help us do that.
Absolutely.
We could do it over cake. Let's do it over cake, Mum.
Cake makes everything better, doesn't it?
Always.
I love, there's a programme in the US where at the end of every interview, the person leading the show asks his guest, what do you think happens when we die? Mm-hmm. And personally, my favourite answer came from Keanu Reeves, who said, the people who love us will miss us.
Mm. Oh, yes.
It literally gives me goosebumps because nobody knows for certain anything else.
No.
We really don't. We can argue that one for millennia and probably will, but nobody knows. But we know absolutely without a doubt it is true.
Yeah.
When somebody dies, everybody who loved them, from the person who saw them on the bus in the mornings and used to strike up a conversation and have a giggle, to the guy who went biking with him or climbing or swimming or at the knitting group, everybody is going to miss them.
Yeah.
And when we say to those people, so how would you celebrate them? What we're really giving them the chance to do is come together and say, you know, this sucks, it hurts because we loved this person. And we have that in common, no matter what our connection to this person. Mm-hmm. And now we get a chance to say, it was all right knowing them, wasn't it?
And I think that takes us really nicely back round to direct cremation and what that means and how it can be different. Because I think the rise of direct cremations has happened so fast that everybody thinks that the only way they can have a direct cremation is contacting one of these big national companies and investing in that in advance and then that happening. And the process with that, roughly and very overarching, is when you die, a van will pick you up along with several other people who have died on that route journey and take your body to a central warehouse morgue, nowhere near where you live potentially. And at some point after you get there, you will be cremated. And at some point after that, your ashes will be delivered back to your family home, the address that you have given in your thing. And none of those steps you have any control over. But you can have a funeral plan if you want, or a direct cremation plan with your very local independent funeral director. And it's a very different thing.
Totally different.
So different, because when your person or you die, your local funeral director will come and collect you. You will be at their chapel of rest morgue that they use, which is local to you. You will know exactly the time and day that your cremation is taking place, and you will know where the ashes are coming back to and have control over when you collect them. And it's a really different thing.
Totally. Not the same experience at all.
Absolutely. Totally different. And that means that you can work, if the funeral director is wise, and I'm sure that they are, because they want to support families in their community and give them the best support and experience they can work alongside people like Dinah and I, if they want to, and offer their clients, families, the opportunity to create a direct cremation funeral plan, but also within that agree to have some sort of memorial remembrance service, wake, celebration, whatever that is, whatever works for you, or have a conversation with a named celebrant that is in your plan, so that all of those people left behind, those people who are going to miss you, those people who loved you are going to miss you, get to say and do something that helps support and process their loss.
And I think it's really important at this point to be really basic about kind of money, because I think that's often a key consideration. So yes, it is the cheapest form of service is to have a direct cremation at a crematorium. However, increasing the cost by having a celebrant is very minimal. Trust me, nobody became a celebrant to become a millionaire, and it's not our motivation. We charge very, very small fees for that part of the ceremony. And people are often very surprised when I tell them what we charge, because they assume when you're talking in the thousands of pounds for funerals that we are part of the thousands, and of course we're not. No. And what actually puts the cost up dramatically is having a longer time at the crematorium. So by keeping it short at the crematorium and having a 10-15 minute direct cremation, you've saved the money, but now you have funds available to say, Mum's favourite coffee shop, or Mum's favourite hotel in town, or the seaside, or wherever it was for this person. Let's talk to the funeral director. Let's make sure we can have the ashes with us if it's after the direct cremation. And let's make sure that we ask a celebrant to create a beautiful service for us. And this is incredibly affordable.
Well, sometimes it's cheaper. No, it's not. It's generally not more, but quite often it's cheaper.
It would be much cheaper than having a full-on 40-minute service at the crematorium with a celebrant. And you and I have both always felt the crematorium is actually the last place I would want my service to take place.
It's meaningless to you. How you have no emotional connection to it.
Nothing at all. Plus, we can't really hug each other. You're sat in chairs that all face in the same direction and are very, very, this far apart. And
you're clock watching.
You're totally clock watching, obsessively at some places. I actually heard of a funeral not that long ago where after 19 minutes of the service, they opened the doors at the back and started to bring in the next funeral. So you are obsessively clock watching. What makes a lot more sense is if we start to see direct cremation not as the I don't want to be a burden option, but actually when I work with the right people, I want this to be the ceremony that my loved ones need to help them on their grief journey. Which means we don't all stand wearing black and feeling very restricted in a crematorium. We all went and had a bonfire on the beach. We all got together and had cake. We've mentioned cake far too many times, haven't we?
I think we have a little obsession, don't we?
I think we might.
I did a beautiful service recently. I've done several beautiful services, some of which have been before the direct cremation, some of which have been after. When they're before, the funeral director has come along with the to wherever it is. In this instance, it was the local hotel, to the family. The coffin has been brought into the room. We've had access to. We've had no time restraints. We've got the room for the morning, so we've had no time restraints at all. And then we have waved the person off, and then carried on celebrating their life in the less formal section of the same celebration. We're all together. We've all got our drink. We've all got the displays up about the person. We're not suddenly, having had the curtains closed, left to our own device in our own separate cars to have to go somewhere else with our grief. And the other day I did a beautiful service at a care home.
Oh, how lovely.
And it was after the event, so with the ashes. But what it meant was, because you think about, especially where we live, Dinah, where we live in the middle of nowhere, it is at least an hour to the nearest crematorium.
Yes.
So when you think about a community going to say goodbye, you are talking however many cars doing however long a journey and then coming all the way back individually. Whereas And all of those people who are too old or infirm to go, missing out on their opportunity to say goodbye. You don't grieve or miss someone less just because you're old when that
Absolutely
happens.
not.
And then you're adding to that grief by them not having an opportunity to ever have to say, I can't get to the crematorium, I can't get to the church, I can't get to the wherever the official place is. So bring the ceremony to where the people are, not the other way.
Absolutely right.
And and we did it. We got everyone a cup of tea. We got the ladies' favourite lemon drizzle cake. Everyone had their slice of lemon drizzle.
Gorgeous.
We had a little sing-song. In fact, we had a little sing-song and an additional impromptu sing-song because one of the residents decided we were going to sing something else halfway through, so we all stopped and had another sing-song. It was really lovely, and we all, and then afterwards we were all there, all the carers who had cared for her and wouldn't have been able to come because they still have to work, so maybe they could have had one representative going. All of the residents who had lived with her for a number of years in the last years of her life, and her family, who were there with their children, so they got to see all the people who were her friends, and it was beautiful.
That's how you celebrate a life, isn't it?
So direct cremation and then everybody getting together somewhere else. So I don't have a problem with direct cremation. I have a problem with the way we currently perceive and manage direct cremation, and I think we just need to start looking at it as an opportunity to do our goodbyes better.
Absolutely, I love that.
Yeah.
And I do think what's really key in this, and you've mentioned them several times, is our independent, family-run, local funeral directors.
Absolutely.
They do understand how families feel when somebody has organised a direct cremation.
Yeah.
And one of the things they often do with their own conversations with somebody who goes in to buy a plan is they will say to them, have you spoken to the family about this? Mm-hmm. And they do that because they're placed in a certain way in the community. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows them. We trust them. They probably have served this family before. Mm-hmm. And they will say, have you thought about the family?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important that we recognise and honour that, because I do believe there would have been more direct cremations that families knew nothing about had it not been for those wonderful independent FDs who've stood up and said, hold on a moment. Yeah. Are you actually doing this for the right reason? Yeah. Have you talked to the family? And crucially, did you know there are options? Yeah. Yes, you've heard about direct cremation. Why do you want it? Yeah. Okay, it's about cost. Well, then let's make sure we make this affordable for you, but it can still include the family. Yeah. And the big firms have started to offer options, but I still feel what they can't offer is knowing that it's local, knowing who it was who took care of them. Many funeral directors are very happy for you to still go and visit your loved one before the direct cremation happens. You absolutely can. But that can't happen if they've now gone to a big centre somewhere. Yeah.
It's really important, and you're absolutely right. The as I said at the beginning, these big corporations that collect, and I'm sure but we can't know for sure because we can't see. But I imagine with the regulations that it is respectful in that you are,
absolutely,
and all of those things. But what you haven't got is the connection, and I think that they expanded so quickly, because they've got massive budget to promote themselves, so people didn't even know that there was direct cremation outside of those big firms, and also I've forgotten what I was saying, Dinah. What was I saying, Dinah? I've forgotten what I was saying.
We're having those moments, aren't we?
It's
they've taken it to a place, I think, that where people have just gone from not knowing they exist at all to, oh my goodness, this is the only option. Yeah. And it was literally overnight. Yeah. Every copy of any magazine aimed at anybody over 75, every third page seemed to be about, have you thought about what's going to happen for your poor family when you die?
And daytime TV, when old people are at home telling them to phone now, it's really easy, set up your direct cremation plan. It was just so easy. And then the cold callers as well, pushing you into that. But I'm not saying there is anything wrong at all with direct cremation. In fact, I'm probably quite for it. But do it alongside giving the family permission, or even creating a solution where the family can have a celebration or memorial of your life and connect together in as understated or overstated way as they and you need to process that, depending on your personalities and your lifestyles. But so direct cremation can be a good thing, especially if it is done through your local funeral director, especially if you've had conversations with your family so they know what to expect, and especially if you give them permission to do what they need to do to process the loss of you, because they love you.
Absolutely right. Thanks, Bern.
It's all right. Pleasure.
Always great to talk to you. I do hope you'll join us next time, folks. And if you've got any questions about direct cremation, please feel free to contact either of us. You'll see the details of how you can do that on this podcast detailed below. Great way to do that is on Instagram, because we're both quite active there, or of course LinkedIn, or you can go to our websites.
Absolutely.
And the details are listed with the podcast.
So, did you mention cake, Dinah?
Cake? I think it's about time, don't you, Bernie?
I do.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Ask a Celebrant is unscripted, and we base it on the questions we receive from our clients and you, our listeners. We'd love to hear from you. Do join the conversation.
See you next month.